Test, test, check 1, 2. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the City of Des Moines Zoning Board of Adjustment. This board has the power under Iowa law and the zoning ordinance of this city to hear and make decisions on requests for variances and exceptions from the regulations in the zoning ordinance, to review conditional use requests, and to consider any appeals from any decision of city staff in the administration of the zoning ordinance. The members of this board are citizens of the City of Des Moines. They have been appointed to this board by the City Council. The board members are volunteers, and they receive no compensation for their public service. I'm going to take a moment here and introduce our board members today. On the audience's left is Heather Ann Rowe. Next to her is Julian Neely. Next to him is Marlis Jones. On the audience's far right is Tom DeCio. Next to him is Rhonda Cedillo. And I'm Mel Pins, the board chair. And we should have our seventh member, Dave Gare, joining us shortly. I'll introduce the city staff who will be assisting us today with the hearing. To my left is Gary Guidelock, legal counsel to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Down here to the audience's left, city staff that will be assisting today include Bert Dross, Deputy Planning Administrator, Chris Heilskove, Zoning Enforcement Officer, Frank Dunn-Young, Senior City Planner, and Michelle Wall, front and center down low here, as our meeting moderator with all the bells and whistles. I'm going to cover the meeting's procedure. For some of you, this may be your first time in front of us. You may hope this is your only time in front of us. But don't worry about the process itself. We will help you through that at each step of the way. But I am going to give you a brief overview here of what we'll be doing today. First and foremost, the Zoning Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board. The hearing will be conducted within the procedures and format as authorized by Iowa law and this city's ordinances. The meeting is open to the public. The meeting is being recorded by both audio and video for a legal record of these proceedings. The board members have each received a copy of the agenda and the staff recommendations. And if you don't have a copy of the agenda and the staff recommendations, I believe they're available on the table here at the back of the room. So feel free to grab a copy of that if you need it. This board is required to base its decision on each item upon the criteria established by law for the type of relief sought by the applicant. The law applicable to each case has been identified in the written staff report. If the facts as determined by this board demonstrates that the criteria established by law for granting the relief have been satisfied, then the board must grant the relief. Otherwise, the board must deny the requested relief. Each item will be announced in the order that it appears on the agenda. Items that are listed on the consent portion of the agenda, which is our first section of the agenda, are not planned to be individually discussed. Rather, they will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendations in the staff report, unless the appellant does not agree to the conditions that have been recommended by staff, or if there's an individual of this audience or a member of this board that requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda so that a full discussion on the matter can occur before a decision is made. And I'll come back to that consent agenda here in just a few minutes. For our regular portion of the agenda, after an item is announced, city staff will first give a brief overview of the appeal. They will present any written comments that have been received prior to the hearing. Then the applicant or their representative will be allowed up to 10 minutes to present their appeal. We'll then move to the public comment portion of the hearing for that agenda items. Anyone that wishes to speak in support of, in opposition to, or even in neutrality of an appeal, will be allowed up to 5 minutes each to present their comments. This will be their one and only opportunity to address the board regarding the item at hand. Once all concerned citizens have spoken, the board will then ask any additional questions of city staff. And lastly, the applicant will be given 3 more minutes for a rebuttal or other closing comments if they so choose. All speakers must speak only from the podium here to the right at the front of the room. You see the microphone there with the overhead. Before you give your presentation, we need you to announce your complete name and your address of business or residence as appropriate. In the event you may need to be contacted for a legal notice related to the outcome of this appeal. And we would also ask, related to that, when you're done with your comments, please sign your name and write your address down. We have a little log book there. So when you're through with your comments, again, just write your name out and put your address down. With your comments, speakers are requested to remain courteous and to focus their comments only upon those facts that demonstrate whether or not the criteria established by law have been satisfied. Speakers are also asked to be respectful of time considerations, and if necessary, the board chair will limit further comments by a speaker if they exceed their time limitation. After all comments have been received on the agenda item, the board chair will close any further public comment on the agenda item, and the board will immediately deliberate the request, and we'll make a decision here today on your appeal. Please note that it always takes at least 4 affirmative votes for any zoning appeal to gain approval. If your appeal is approved today, we'd ask that you wait until about a week from today's hearing if you would need to contact the city's Permit and Development Center to obtain any necessary building or sign permits that are related to your appeal. This will allow the decision of this board to be finalized and documented in the form of a decision and order. That decision and order document will then be provided to you and city staff for the record. Any appeal that is approved by this board must be implemented, constructed, or otherwise utilized within 2 years of the date of the board's decision, or such approval shall expire. The decisions of this board can only be appealed in the Iowa District Court. So if you believe you've been harmed by an error made by this board, your only remedy is to seek relief through the court within 30 days of the filing of the board's decision and order. If you believe the zoning regulations applied by this board are wrong, you may petition the city council to change those regulations for future considerations. All material written or otherwise used today as part of any presentation is considered part of the permanent record. If there's anything you want to present today, pictures, drawings, etc., you can do that. But if you have not already, you'll need to give copies to city staff for the record. If you would like copies of anything that you see presented today, just ask city staff after the hearing and they will get you an appropriate copy. Finally, just some quick housekeeping items. Please avoid any undue conversation in the audience so as to limit distractions during the hearing. Please ensure your cell phone's been silenced. And if you need to use a restroom, you can leave through the door here, turn left, walk to the end of the hall, turn left again. There are some restrooms on your right. Once the agenda item you're interested in has been completed, you're welcome to leave the hearing. We'll also have a 5-minute break around 3 o'clock or just thereafter if that would be needed. So again, that's our background on our hearing for today, but again, we will also help you through each step of that. As I referenced, our consent portion is the first portion. So I'm going to ask Frank to come up and fill us in on any changes we may have to the posted agenda.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. We do not have any changes proposed at this time.
Okay, all right, good to know. All right, so we're going to take a look at our consent agenda. I'm just going to read through the items that are on consent and see here if there would be anybody that objects to what I'm going to list off here. Just raise your hand. Item 1 is a zoning exception request at 4347 Merle Hay Road related to modifications to an existing monument sign and sizing and amount of signage allowable. Staff is recommending approval subject to certain conditions. Is there anybody in the audience that would object to this board approving item 1? Just raise your hand. All right, seeing none. Item 2 is a zoning exception request at 520 Army Post Road related to the St. Vincent de Paul Society, related to the installation, placement, and size of 3 signs. Is there anybody in the audience that would be opposed to this board granting the requested appeals in item 2? If so, just raise your hand. All right, seeing none. Board members, unless anybody has a concern and would like to hear items 1 and 2, would there be a motion to grant approval for items 1 and 2 on consent?
I'll second.
All right, motion by Marlis and second by Rhonda. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. All right, vote carries 7-0, unanimous. So again, if you're here for items 1 or 2, they've been approved. Just give us about a week so we can get you a copy of the decision in order. If you need to then come down and apply for your signage permits. So thank you for coming in. If you were interested in items 1 and 2, we're through with those. All right, item 3 will be our first item on our regular portion of the agenda. And I'll turn it over to Bert Drost to give us some background.
All right. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Bert Drost, planning staff for the city. Item number 3 is a request for a 109-foot tall communications tower that would be within a 60-foot by 60-foot lease area at the back of the property at 2503 Garden Road. On the screen now is a aerial photo map that shows the layout of the site compared to the surrounding properties. You can see the subject property is zoned EX, Business Park District. The property immediately to the north, which is owned by the Des Moines Waterworks, is zoned I-1. There are going to be 4 photos here. This first photo shows the building that's on the front portion of the property at 2501 Garden Road. The next photo shows the parking lot that's to the east of that building there at 2501 Garden Road. And this is another photo of that east side yard area. And then if you look in the back left of this photo, that's where the tower would be. It would be within a 60-foot by 60-foot lease area within an open space area on the back of that property. This sketch here shows that leased area. So you can see the blue square is the existing building that's on the front portion of the property. The cell tower would be located within this leased area to the north of that building. The next drawing shows what the tower would look like. So it would be 109 feet tall. It would have the arrays at the top. It would have the opportunity for 2 more sets of arrays to be co-located on the tower below the top array that would be initially installed. And then this graphic just shows some aerial angles of the property, showing where on the site the tower would be in relation to the existing building. And another view of the same tower. Our staff recommendation is in support. We believe that they've satisfied the criteria necessary for granting the conditional use. We feel this is an appropriate location. It's not a residentially zoned or used property. It's kind of in a mixed use area that includes, some businesses as well as some other types of uses. So we have recommended approval subject to 4 conditions. The first being the 60-foot by 60-foot leased area shall be screened by a privacy fence and landscaping to the satisfaction of the planning administrator. 2, barbed wire shall be prohibited. 3, the tower shall be painted light gray or another color that's compatible with the surrounding area to the satisfaction of the planning and urban design administrator. And then any communications tower shall be in compliance with all site and building code requirements. I'm now showing you the consent map that shows the response cards we've received. I believe we have 2 cards in opposition and 1 card in support. And then I believe the Neighborhood Association has also submitted a card. So on the screen now is one of the comment cards from Straub Marketing that's in opposition. Just saying they're concerned because it's going to be a visual distraction for nearby businesses. The next card from Brian Foster is also in opposition. This is the comment card from the Southwestern Hills Neighborhood Association that says they have no concerns at this time. They did note that they were notified by the applicant of the neighborhood meeting on the same day that that meeting was held. So. Then the last card is in support from Daniel Rodish. So does anybody have any questions for me?
Questions for Bert from the board? Bert, if I didn't have a question, something be wrong. But just in general, with the board's purview here, you mentioned that staff is recommending approval that, yes, it's a cell phone tower. It's going to be there, but the way it has been designed, the way the landscaping will be around it, the way the fencing will be on the ground level stuff, that's all designed to help it blend in as much as possible and not detract from the overall general character of the area. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
All right. So beyond that, that's really what the board's charge is here then, correct?
Yeah, the board is charged with reviewing it against the 9 criteria that any conditional use has to satisfy.
And related to that, and you did a good job with the pictures here, but you had mentioned the privacy fence requirement as well as the landscaping. Is the landscaping shown on the
I
little
don't believe
overhead?
it has been. When they finalize the site plan, they would have to show that how it would be landscaped. And if the board goes with the condition recommended by staff that it be to the satisfaction of the planning and urban design administrator, then there would be some additional review. So right now it just shows that box and doesn't show.
That's kind of why I wondered.
Doesn't show any plants or shrubs around the perimeter.
And when that landscaping is required related to a cell phone tower, is it usually around the screened area of the cell phone, or would that mean, no, the whole site may need some additional?
It would just be around this leased area, around the outside of the privacy fence. And so the condition says privacy fence to the satisfaction of the planning and urban design administrator. I'm assuming that means a solid wood privacy fence,
Okay.
not like chain link with slats or something like that.
Right. Yeah, so not just opaque, but of general good design.
Yeah, right.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. Are there other cell towers close by? Do you know?
I don't know offhand if there are.
Okay.
Not to make a quip, but usually not, because
Right.
then you won't need a cell phone tower. But there are other cell phone towers in the larger area of the south side. There's one over at Hartford near South Union. Gosh, there's some on the south side of downtown and River Point. I'm sure there's.
Yeah, there's some communication towers off of Grand Avenue, just near the river to the north. Yeah.
Can you? Yeah.
Elaine, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Can you provide some justification or reasoning around why you deemed the cell tower and its location not impacting like health, safety, or any other general welfare for those that are working it, since it's a commercial space, especially in regards to environmental concerns that might be related to towers?
And I would defer to our legal staff on that, but the health implications of a cell tower is not something that the board's able to take into consideration. There's federal provisions that prevent the board from considering that, just like they're not, like how close the tower is to another cell tower. That's not something the board can take into consideration either.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. There's a specific federal law called the Spectrum Act that we're governed by, and that supersedes anything that we can do in a lot of those areas, and those are specific ones.
All right, good questions. Anybody else from the board have a question for Bert? Okay, all right. Thanks for the opening top of the inning here, Bert. All right, applicant or representative of the applicant. As I referenced, we just need you to start off with your name, address is appropriate. You've got up to 10 minutes to present your reasoning.
Good afternoon. I appreciate your time today. My name is Alex Truman. I am here representing Tower North. What we're proposing here is the 109-foot monopole in conjunction with Verizon Wireless. And this project is really being completely driven by the demands of your own residents. A big issue that we have seen over the last few years is just an exponential increase in the demand of the capacity of the networks in order to be able to handle all the traffic that we're seeing. The younger generation connections. The last thing they're doing with their phones is making phone calls. It's really been something about streaming and uploading, downloading that puts a really large burden on the network. And this is to alleviate that, to be able to improve that coverage and capacity to the entire portion of the town there for all the individuals who truly rely on it, on a daily basis, as well as from a E911 response perspective.
Okay. All right. Would you be willing to take some questions from the board if we have some?
Absolutely.
Just a brief one, by its design, that as you proposed and within the regulations of the city, would you say this is pretty typical for other types maybe you've designed around here in the Des Moines area in any general district?
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, our goal overall is to incorporate to the best of our ability into the community. So we do take that high, it's very incredibly important to us, right? So we try to find areas where it meets network goals and needs, and then try to come up with a design that can really incorporate to the best of our ability, which is why we're working with planning staff on that landscaping design, that privacy fence design, as part of the overall, compound layout there.
And not to get too far into it, but I saw that there was the ability to then add some additional arrays later. Is the concept that, okay, so if you are given approval to build this, then somebody else won't have to come to us and say, well, we're a competing company, now we need to build a tower next door. You're supposed to design it with enough space for what they call co-location. Is that right?
That is correct. So Tower North, that is their goal, is to have this be a fully loaded tower, be able to accommodate all the carriers and their needs. That is the way it is designed. Verizon always tries to incorporate networks, deployment on existing structures whenever possible. There are no structures in this vicinity that can accommodate their equipment and meet network goals. So that is why this is being proposed.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So next part on this item would be any comments from the audience. So the way we usually do this, is there anybody that wishes to speak in support of the applicant's request? We'll start with that. Anybody that wishes to speak in support? If so, you can come on up. You'd have up to 5 minutes. Seeing none, would there be anybody that wishes to speak in opposition to the applicant's request? First hand up. Come on up. Again, we just need you to begin with your name, address. You've got up to 5 minutes, and then when you're through, if you just sign our sign-in sheet, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, I'm Mason Groban with Jasper Winery at 2400 George Flagg Parkway. Just right off the bat, I just would like to say that the note that was for this was from the Southwest Hills Neighborhood Association. That's not the neighborhood that this is being proposed in. It's in the Garden District. So if they were giving this to the Southwest Hills Neighborhood Association, I can see why they wouldn't care, because it's not their neighborhood. And I never received any notification that this was going to happen. So if they were working with the Southwest Hills Neighborhood Association, it was not passed on to the correct people. In my opinion, that there's no awareness that this is going to happen. They're approved up to 180-foot tower in that area. That's Waterworks Park right there. We got Grays Lake right there. The city has put millions of dollars into creating a park-like destination for people, and to put up to an 180-foot cell phone tower I'm very surprised that this is being considered. To me, there's a reason that a tower like this isn't allowed in this sort of district, and it is because it's going to be a real eyesore, I think. I run weddings there. We do very large live music events, and to have a cell phone tower, just right outside of that, seems. I'm just shocked that would be considered. You're talking about a privacy fence and landscaping. That's really negligible when you're talking about a 110-foot tower. I mean, landscaping can be maybe 10 feet tall. So that's really, to me, a non-starter. Looking through the criteria, you mentioned the health concerns. When I mentioned to my wife, we have small children. That's a major health concern that you're going to have a cell phone tower, 100 feet from where people are going to be hanging out, where there's going to be weddings, all sorts of events going on. Talking about property values, this is definitely going to affect my property value. I have weddings. You think a bride's going to want to get married with a huge cell phone tower right next door? I think that's going to be majorly affect my business and my property values. And obviously, going to the proposed enjoyment of our property, once again, it's going to really affect the enjoyment of our property, what we're trying to do there.
Any questions anybody would have for Mason? Mason, if you do have some questions about who was notified and who wasn't, I might ask you to just ask staff to review that. In general, within a certain amount of feet of radius, neighboring property owners are notified.
Okay.
Secondarily, I don't know that there's a recognized neighborhood association for your quote neighborhood, but usually the nearest neighborhood association to that area, I believe, is notified.
Yeah, I don't know if our neighborhood, if it's a formal or how that works with the city.
Yeah, you'd have to ask staff on that. Gary?
I know we do have neighborhood meetings, and we've done this in the past when like with the construction and stuff that's gone down there.
I was just looking on the city's website. As far as it shows on here that it is Southwestern Hills is the recognized neighborhood association. So it sounds like the one that he's referring to is not one of our recognized neighborhood associations.
That could be.
And we certainly like to take everybody's comments into account. It doesn't mean that just because the neighborhood association says, yay, we think it's great, that doesn't necessarily sway it one way or the other. We have to look at the information provided to us. But you have a wonderful operation there.
Thank you.
It's been great to watch you guys grow, pun intended, over the years.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yes,
that.
appreciate you coming in.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else to speak in opposition to the applicant's request? Even ask in neutrality, anything related, somebody would like to add? Okay, seeing none. Any further questions we would have for staff? Board members, seeing none. Okay, so then what we have here is an opportunity. Alex, you can if you wish. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but you could have up to 3 minutes for a rebuttal or closing comments, up to you.
I just want to address the portion of as far as the notification. We sent out 2 separate mailers prior to us holding our public hearing, or excuse me, community meeting, as well as the public hearing notifications that went out as part of this board review. And I personally went out last year when this project started and walked and knocked on the doors of every single one of these property owners who were there and available and spoke to it. We did reach out and spoke directly to the winery. We actually engaged them to see if it was something they were interested in doing. I left our contact information. So, I mean, it is important us to engage in the community there to get their input on these types of projects. And I just wanted to clarify that is something we did prior to this application being made.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, sir. All right. Then we'll close the public portion and go to board deliberation. So board members, you've seen the request, the application, information, comments. You see the staff rationale and the reasoning behind that, as well as what they're recommending for conditions to go with their suggested approval. So would there be some discussion on this by the board? I might just kind of lead us off. This isn't necessarily because of age or experience, but I've been on this board for many a year, and we've seen a lot of cell phone towers presented to us. And if a cell phone tower is being proposed anywhere near somebody, it's easy to go, there's a cell phone tower, I'm concerned. There are cell phone towers everywhere in our city. I've got one that's, I don't know, probably 300 feet from where I live, and I've lived in the same place for 25 years. Frankly, I do not notice it. There's one in the middle of Beaverdale. Yes, if you want to stand there and look at it, there's a cell phone tower. But in general, our neighborhood character comes down to how our neighbors take care of their property. Do they have junk cars sitting around? Are they not mowing? Are they not taking care of their house? To me, the character of the neighborhood is how it's being taken care of. And I can see, again, yeah, there's no cell phone tower down there now, but primarily a lot of great businesses down there. My auto body guys down there. But there's a lot of trucks sitting around down there. There's roll-off containers. There's a bunch of RV storage. There's semi-trailers. I don't think a cell phone tower is going to upset the apple cart of the neighborhood. The screening idea, certainly we don't expect that landscaping and fences hide a cell phone tower. What they do is at eye level, at ground level, they are designed to screen so we're not seeing transformers, emergency generators, electric meters, cable boxes. That's the general approach. So I feel always we take these very seriously, but we have cell phone towers, I believe, in city parks. think we have cell phone arrays on or near Tower Park up by Merle Hay. They are more ubiquitous or endemic than many people may think in our city. As was mentioned, it's part of what we do. 150 years ago, we didn't have telephone poles. We didn't have electric wires. We didn't have transformers on poles. Yeah, let's just get rid of all that. People want to communicate. They want streaming data. It's part of the fabric of our landscape. Our goal is to make it blend in as best as possible. So I'm open to other comments, but based on what I've seen presented and staff recommendation, I would be in support.
Is that a motion?
Nope. I just want to hear other comments that folks may have for the moment. I mean, I'm happy to make it a motion. I will go ahead and make it a motion that I would approve staff rec for approval, but certainly interested in any other thoughts or a second.
Oh, no, I agree with you 100%. I think it's just part of our society now. Just I mean, he said it himself. They need it there because there's a demand. So, and I think that they become pretty invisible after a while. I've got some not too far from me, so I'm in support of this too.
Okay, so I've got a motion out there. Any other comments or a second?
I'll second it.
All right, so motion by Mel, second by Dave. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? Oh, wait. Are you yay in support? Okay, all right. So that's 7 unanimous. Okay, all right. So as we mentioned, it's been approved. Give us about a week to put together the decision and order. And again, Mason, you've got a great operation down there. There's a lot of great folks in that district, and I see continued improvements down there. And I hope the city will get that neighborhood paved one of these days. So I have no oversight of that. All right, appreciate everybody coming in on that item. Thank you very much. Okay, that'll bring us then to item number 2.
3.
Oh, 3, sorry. 4. I got to skip ahead here. All right. Item 4, zoning exception request at 4171 East Broadway Avenue. Frank's going to give us the background here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Item 4 is located at 4171 East Broadway Avenue. The proposal is to allow the use of 2 vacant mobile home lots within a mobile home park that the zoning enforcement officer has determined to have lost their non-conforming rights due to a discontinuance of use exceeding 1 year. The appellant is here to request a type 2 zoning exception to the time period within which a use may be resumed after a temporary discontinuance of that use. On the site map that you see above, it has the property outlined with surrounding properties being N2A district. It too is N2A district. However, you see the ripple going through the northern portion of the property, which is flood district, but does not weigh into the use of that's in front of us today. So I'm going to pull up a few photos of the premises being the that is particular to the lots. Now, these were taken late in 2025 as part of an enforcement action. And the other parcel. And here is an overhead site map that shows the premises for that has, they have approximately 32 lots. There's a single family home on the premises. There are multiple structures as well. The property is about a little over almost 5 acres in size. The neighborhood around it, as I mentioned before, is N2A, but it consists of a primarily large lots, one household lots, farmland, open space, and small businesses. Now, this particular property, it's utilized as a mobile home lot. It was in existence prior to annexation and prior to the new code. The new code today would require an NM zoning district. So under its current zoning, it would be what we consider legal non-conforming. And what we have in this map, it shows the 30 lots, 32 lots in the single-family home. Lot 30 and Lot 6 were out of use for a period longer than a year. And this is just a close-up image that I took overhead, and it shows lot 6 here, or lot 30, and then lot 6 down here. As you can see, they're vacant. And so as part of every Board of Adjustment application, we do notice for type 2 zoning exceptions. We do notice all the neighborhood associations as well as surrounding property owners. For this situation, the appellant is proposing to reuse the units, the lots, Lot 6 and Lot 30. They're indicating that the pre-existing situation had intended to be maintained, and that the damage or destruction of those mobile homes took place by an evicted tenant without their consent. And so upon being noticed, they began the process of remediating the property, cleaning it up, and we're hoping to reoccupy the premises with additional mobile homes to fill those gaps. I will ask zoning enforcement to speak more to that situation. And so as part of staff's recommendation, we are requesting approval of the type 2 zoning exception to allow the time period within which a use may be resumed after a temporary discontinuance of that use. We believe that it's reasonably necessary due to practical difficulties related to the subject property, given the mobile homes had been damaged or destroyed without the property owner's consent. And so we did recommend approval subject to a couple conditions: resumption of the use, construction on those lots must be in compliance with all applicable site plan regulations, and one more, any resumption or construction on Lot 6 and Lot 30 must be in compliance with all applicable fire and building codes. And so I will pan down to the consent map. These are the property owners that were notified. No cards were received. And I will turn it over to the zoning enforcement officer unless you have questions for me.
Anybody got questions for the moment for Frank? Okay. Chris, we anxiously await your comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. Chris Hulscove, Zoning Enforcement Officer. Yeah, as Frank laid the scene out here, our inspection staff, in conjunction with property improvement, had noticed the mobile homes had been removed per code in Chapter 134, 7 to 9, I believe. A discontinuance for more than a year requires the loss of rights there. This provision, the applicant's asking for today, merely ask for an extension of time. I believe their intentions are to clean the mobile home park up and redevelop. I'll let them speak to the intent and how they want to do that. They have been working through the design and development process, reaching out to planning staff, building staff, and zoning enforcement through this process. It's really a case where they ran out of time So I'll let them talk a little bit about timing as well. But if you have any other additional questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Frank really laid the scene out pretty well.
Chris, just maybe two basic things. And the first one would be, so, and again, with the layout that Frank gave as well here, the general idea here is that, okay, we've had a mobile home park here for many, many years, and mobile home parks can be just fine, not dissing on mobile home parks. But with the rezoning and the new comprehensive plan that was approved some 7 years ago, the goal was, over time, if the mobile home uses are discontinued, especially if it's over a year, the goal would be to eventually transform this area into single or two-family housing for density. So that's a general thing in a zoning ordinance, right? Like, hey, you can keep doing what you want as long as it stays as is. But if that use stops, we'd like to see a gradual transition.
Yeah, you speak to intent there with your question. And as soon as these uses are lost, that's the whole idea behind losing the pre-existing and non-conforming rights. So in this case, they have a pre-existing condition there with a mobile home. It's okay to be there,
right?
Kind of, as you mentioned, grandfathered in or legal non-conforming. We're talking about the replacement of these two mobile homes. And then they had a year to do that. They worked through the process. It didn't get completed. So we're sort of bound by the regulations in the code. So today they're going to speak to the extenuating circumstances and what happened there and provide guidance.
Yeah, because in this case, well, usually if more than a year goes by, staff isn't usually supportive of granting exceptions on these things because you want to see certain things transition and go away.
Yes, exactly.
And I know they can probably help us with some other detail here, but from when it was destroyed or otherwise determined non-habitable, did you receive a complaint or do you just drive through a mobile home park once a week or what?
We have received, the other divisions in neighborhood services have received complaints at this park for junk and debris, conditions. I think this was prompted by our property improvement division.
Okay.
They work in conjunction with the zoning inspector, so we do what's called a vacancy monitor.
Yep.
So our staff will go out. They applied for a building permit. We found out that the deadline had expired or the year had expired, and then at that point failed a building permit. So they are working through that process, just missed the deadline. So
because related to that, at the time you noticed it was a nuisance issue and would have responded, is it something where you generally say, hey, like, not only do you got to get this cleaned up, but since the trailer's pretty much destroyed, I want to give you a heads up. You're going to have to get this fixed, replaced, or back in service within a year, or you're going to lose that right. Was that time close enough that they would have at least understood that, oh, this just happened, and we were notified, we better get with it. We got about a year to get this fixed. Did you guys do that?
Yeah, we try and do as much liaison work with all of the ordinances out there. Our property improvement department on their notices, and I don't want to get too deep into what they do notifying, but you need to comply with the current zoning, applicable zoning, fire, building, all of the codes that are existing.
But in general, it's not like it's a big surprise you do a nuisance thing and wait 364 days and then come out and tell them, oh, by the way, you got 1 day to get it replaced, or sorry, your year one's out. Haha, you don't do that. Generally. Okay. All right. Thank you, Chris. Yes, Julie.
Chris, you had mentioned that this would be an extension to be able to build on those two lots. How long is that extension are you requesting?
Yeah, so in our discussions, we would probably defer back to the board's general guidelines of the 2 years. And I'm not sure if Gary might want to weigh in there, but I think the 2-year time frame is what we would advocate for, to submit permits, get them approved, and commence the construction.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think, because we're really talking about we're talking about extending the period, the 1 year period that they had that has already expired. So I think defaulting to the provision that action based on a board decision has to occur within 2 years, I think that makes sense because there's not a specific time frame that applies just to the mobile home non-conforming use issue.
And would that pretty much align with the condition 1 in regards to the staff recommendation, or is that an additional condition we would need to add if we were to create a motion?
I don't think it would hurt to make that clear. And I want to make sure that I'm being clear as well, that 2-year limitation would be the limitation for them to complete the action. The non-conforming use would be allowed to continue beyond that 2-year period unless and until
Right.
it were lost by abandonment or something else.
Great clarification. Any other questions for Chris? All right, well, thank you, Chris. Appreciate your extra info there. All right, so applicant or representative of the applicant. And if you guys want to tag team on this, that's fine, but you got 10 minutes. You can just introduce both of yourselves and then write your names down. Yeah, so tell us what you got going.
Will do. Good afternoon. My name is Steve Driss. This is my business partner, Matt Dunayev. We are the owners of 4171 Broadway Mobile Home Park. We're here to request a reconsideration of the decision that Lot 6 and Lot 30 at 4171 East Broadway have lost their non-conforming replacement rights. After reviewing everything that happened over the past year, we acted in complete good faith, and the circumstances causing the delays were entirely out of our control. The homes on Lot 6 and 30 were removed during the week of November 4th, 2024. The tenants in these homes were lawfully evicted and then destroyed their homes without obtaining any permits or notifying us. We found out about this destruction from other tenants and then received a violation from the city to clean up the mess, which we did. Our current manager, who was hired in October of 2024, actually performed the cleanup. We immediately began working with the city to understand how to replace them. Although throughout this entire process, we remained in frequent communication with the city. As stated in the ZBOA staff report and recommendations, the criteria contained in the City Code Section 134-6.6.2 states use may be resumed after a temporary discontinuance when discontinuance of the use was due to unique circumstances not of the property owner's making, and resumption of the use will not have a significant adverse impact on the essential character of the surrounding area. Given the full sequence of events, we respectfully request that the city restore replacement rights on Lot 6 and 30. We are requesting an extension will allow us time to identify, purchase, and install newer homes that meet the city requirements. Our only goal is to continue improving the property and providing safe, stable, and affordable housing to our residents. Thank you for your time and consideration.
All right, pretty straightforward. Board members, any questions? We may have a few more here, but I'd like to just reference something here briefly. First of all, appreciate you guys coming in today. I see your mailing address is California for the business.
Correct.
Is that where you guys are from?
That is.
I trust you flew in and didn't drive?
Yes. Yes, we've been here since Sunday.
Okay. How long ago did you guys buy the property, the park per se?
About 3.5 years ago.
Okay. All right. So management-wise, you guys are pretty new.
Yes.
I mean, your new management. And when you say that the tenants were evicted and then, vandalized, destroyed, busted up, I'm just adding a few descriptive words here, but so were they renting the mobile home from you as the owner?
No, they were the owners. They were the title holders. We evicted them, I believe it was for non-payment of rent. Also, as you can tell, some of them don't take good care of their property. So we want to, our goal is to clean up this park ultimately. So they were evicted, and in return, they paid us a favor by destroying the entire home.
Yeah, and mobile homes are kind of a unique thing as property. They're almost like a car with a license and registration.
Correct.
But the concept is they owned it, and if you quote evicted them for not paying their lot rent, if you will, the premise is they would hook up their mobile home and take it away. But what they basically did is destroyed their own owned property in spite, and then ran off and left it. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's probably not, again, not something you chose to have happen. That's not the outcome you would have wanted.
Correct.
And then was city staff working with you pretty quickly to say, hey, can you get this cleaned up, guys? I mean.
So we received a notice, and we've been in, I believe, in pretty good communication with the city, with the neighborhood enforcement person who we're even meeting with tomorrow at the park to just, again, walk through and give us some heads up on how we can improve it. And with our new manager, I think anybody would say that it's in a much, much better place than it was before we had this newer manager. But we've been in contact with them since the beginning. So sourcing homes is a challenge.
Right.
You know, the folks that sell used homes, they don't sell them to other operators. They sell it to in their own parks. So we have to source. We go on Facebook, we go on Craigslist, we drive by looking for homes. We did that all this week. And so we've been in communication, trying to understand what it takes to actually bring in a new home, because we are newer to this business. This is our first community that we own. We're not exactly sure, because it's complicated lingo, of how to do it the right way. And so we met with movers to make sure we can move homes in physically, to make sure that we had all our T's crossed and our I's dotted before we jumped into getting permits. We wanted to make sure we could physically bring in the homes.
Anybody else have a question here? We've had, Gary, do you have a question you'd like to ask the applicant?
I've got a few questions just to make sure the record is clear, for the consideration that the board has to do. So I'm a little unclear on timelines and things like that. So if I could ask some questions about that. You said you bought the mobile home park 3.5 years ago.
December 2022.
Okay. So you owned it when these trailers were destroyed.
Correct.
And what's the date they were destroyed?
So I can kind of go over this. So they were destroyed at some point of September 2024 is when they were literally chainsawed down by their own owners. So, their private property is on our real property. When we evicted them, like you said, they could have taken it. They chose to just cut it down and leave us in a monstrous mess. In October, we hired our new manager. We were made aware of that. And in November, it was completely cleaned up. Where the disconnect was, and like Chris said, we were probably within weeks of that 12-month. We were working with the city from October of 2024 when we were made aware of this, trying to understand exactly what our setbacks are, because we have to make sure that we find specific homes. Our park has smaller, older homes. So that's why what Steve said is identifying and purchasing the homes that will fit onto these lots with the setbacks, with the width and the length, is challenging. But we've been working with them for about a year. What we probably misunderstood was, because we were cleaning it up, it took time. And a trailer that's 66 feet long, you can't just hook it up to an F-150 and pull it out. So we had to get all that taken care of. We were under the assumption, the date was that we have, was that in October of, the week of November 4th, 2024, so probably within a month of it being destroyed, we pulled this thing out. In October of 2025, when we finally had some guidance and we applied for this application, we made a mistake on the application. So we were within that 12-month period. Additionally, though, the city has a different date as to when the 12-month started. We were under the anticipation that the 12-month started when the physical final trailer, not just the trash was hauled away, but the trailer left our lot. We thought that was when the 12-month window started. We were made aware that the 12-month window started probably a month or 5 weeks before that actual steel trailer was taken away. And so then when we were told that our application was incorrect and we refiled, now we were past that 12-month deadline or window. So, this is why we're here asking for an exception. We were actively working on trying to replace this. We have a very low-income park providing low-income housing. We have about 30 families there that are needing a place to live. We've been working very, very hard in cleaning this place up. The pictures that you guys have from a few months ago is not what it looks like today. We've spent a lot of time at the park. Our manager has done a good job of that. And so we just want the opportunity to continue offering low-income housing by giving us the chance to replace 2 more mobile homes that'll fit into Lot 6 and Lot 30.
And if I can just throw in one thing, part of our plan is that because the tenants do own their trailers, when they do leave or when they vacate or get evicted, we want to bring in newer homes, something that's more appealing to the eye, something that will bring in a better quality tenant as well to the area. So our intention is not just to keep these homes and let them, let people live in them, but to ultimately bring in newer homes as we can find them, as they become available, and replace what we had there with newer, better quality stuff.
I apologize. I was trying my best to keep up with the dates, but I might go back a little bit.
You like a copy?
No, if it's okay, I mean, I think we can make it part of the record.
September 2024,
That's when they were destroyed.
when they were destroyed,
Did you have a manager employed at that time?
we did.
Okay, and did they notify you of that?
It was actually, the reason why he was no longer our manager very shortly thereafter is because he did not notify us that. We were notified by other tenants in the park.
Okay, and that was in October of 2024.
It was within a 2-week period that we replaced that manager when we found out that he wasn't doing his job.
And when were the materials removed from the site?
During the month of October, but November 4th, 2024 was when the final pieces were removed from the park.
And you started looking at that time for replacement mobile homes?
Correct.
Have you identified any as of this date today?
We did, but the thing is that you have to act fast. So when we found out that we don't have the permits to put them on, we didn't act on purchasing them because we don't have a place to put them. So we've put that on pause at the moment until we hopefully are granted the ability to do so, in which case we will actively start looking for the homes that will fit.
Thank
In
you.
addition, though, yesterday we drive through other mobile home parks. I'm always looking on Facebook Marketplace to see trailers that are for sale. So we went to go see one on the south side that fits our footprint, that's a well-maintained, and that's one that we spoke to the gentleman, to the owner yesterday, and if we are able to move forward, then that could be a potential candidate for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yep, good questions, Gary. Questions from others? Marlis?
I'm just a little bit confused as to then when would it be extended to?
Well, they'd probably like as much time as we can give them, but.
Well, yes, and
Guys, yeah.
yes, of course, we would appreciate as much time as we could get. Our goal is not to take up that much time because we want to be able to bring in a replacement home so that we can fill that lot. And in reality, that dirt doesn't serve a purpose for anybody. It's much better used if we are able to put a home on there sooner rather than later. And while we've been here, we have met with other sellers of homes, so we're just in the limbo waiting for hopefully being granted this opportunity.
Quick question, yes. You said you had purchased a property in 2022, correct?
December 2022.
Was it a new business or did you purchase the existing business for?
Existing. This court has been around since the early 60s.
Gotcha, okay. Thank you, I just wanted that clarification.
Yeah. Which means a few of the trailers have probably gone back to the early 60s. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and again, we're here asking to be granted for lots 6
Sure.
and 30, but ultimately, so that you guys know, our goal is, we're learning the process, but now that I'm seeing what the process is, our goal is to replace all 31 homes on the property in order to make it better.
Yep. I've seen nice double wides with built-in jacuzzis. Not kidding, but I'm not sure if it would fit on lot 6 or lot
It
13.
won't, but there are new, nice, single-wide homes that we
Yes.
could put in there that, I mean, we've walked through a decent amount of them, and they're very nice.
They're there.
And they definitely serve the purpose for low-income housing.
Well, while you guys are up here, and I appreciate both from our attorney and my colleagues asking about your timeline, I kind of like to look at general direction, broad swath, broad side of the barn here. Staff has said, hey, look, we want to look at transitioning uses, but they're actually in support of giving you some, quote, extra time to do this. But I think what staff kind of alluded to was, well, 2 years from the date of when it was first empty, vacant, abandoned, non-used. What I saw here in the staff report was relatively November 24. So if we sat here today as a group and said, okay, well, yeah, I think, it was 1 year, well, give them another year from when it was vacated, well, that's November 26. That's 7 months from now. That may or may not allow you to get this across the finish line. But I might be inclined to say, well, you know what? You are here today, understanding what the city's done, understanding the conditions. That's why we like to ask these questions, so we can try to figure out what the best fit is. If we went, hey, we'll give you a year from today's date, that would bring you to about April of 27, which would be 2 years and 6 months from the date that this happened. I would kind of hope, since you've got I think you've had a best interest from day one, I would kind of hope if you can't figure it out in 2 years and 6 months, you're probably not going to figure it out. So I don't know what we'll do as a board. We certainly want to listen to others that may want to speak, but if we did say something like, well, one, we could go with staff recommendation, which would mean, yeah, we'll give you an extension through probably then it would be November 26. We could maybe do that. But if we went to April of 27, you think you'd have it figured out by then?
Yes.
I think so. And just keep in mind that during the winter months, we can't move anything. So
I get it.
those are lost for us.
And if you're not familiar with our climate, there's about 4 months of the year you don't really do much for that kind of work.
We are very familiar. We've done a lot of improvements to the property, and we've dealt with waiting for the dirt to defrost.
There we go.
So we understand.
If we were able to get April of 2027, that would give us a good amount of time to be able to handle this. And again, our goal is to be able to get this done in a much shorter period of time. It's not just going to Flummerfeld and picking up a home, because we are required to get specific sizes. And because these homes are so old, it is not easy to pick up a home of this exact size. That's our biggest challenge.
Chair and Gary, before I ask my question or make my statement, what information can I share in regards to related to I think how I want to word this? So with my employer, we provide funding for certain things. I've received communication of similar related to this project. Is there a quick question I can ask related to that to them?
If you can make a decision without asking that question, I would encourage you to do that. I don't want to get into any kind of conflict analysis or anything like that. If you have questions about that, we can talk about it privately before the vote. I'd ask for a break if you need to do that. But
no, that answered my question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for a good question, Julian, and the sage legal advice from our attorney. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Well, we'll check back with you guys in just a couple minutes here. We'll see what the audience might think as well.
Thank you very much.
You bet. You're very welcome. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak in support of the applicant's request for this exception? Anyone to speak in support? All right. Come on down.
Hi, my name is Carol Maher. I live in downtown Des Moines. I'll give my address in writing over here. I'm wondering if the applicant has ever thought about putting tiny homes on those lots. It's a manufactured form of housing that is a little bit sexier than a mobile home, and is in need of lots like this where there's existing utilities and water and such. And many communities, I don't know about our code here in Des Moines, but many communities don't really have a solution for tiny homes. So so they are repurposing mobile home lots for tiny homes. So I'm just throwing that out there as an opportunity as well. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Carol. Carol's always got some good ideas, and maybe that's something staff can explore. If it is or isn't a possibility, they can discuss that with the applicant. Anybody else, again, wishes to speak in support? Seeing none. Anybody that wishes to speak in opposition? So say, now would be your time. All right. Even in neutrality, anyone? Okay. All right. Do we have any further questions for staff? All right. Seeing none. Guys, I think you've said what you want. You good? Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, well then we'll close the public portion and go to board deliberation. Thoughts among the members? Some of you might be more familiar with where this is than others. Some of you Northeast Siders. Yeah. Okay. Any thoughts?
I like the tiny homes idea.
Okay. Which is not the item up for bid on The Price is Right. But
I have all my
I think-
questions answered.
I think they're motivated to find replacements for both these lots. I think we ought to give them a year. They're working at it.
from our date today, a year from today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They've asked for that. I doubt they're going to need that long because
Right.
they're missing out on revenue the longer they wait. So I'd make a motion to grant it the request and let's give them a year to figure it out.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. So we got a motion by Dave, a second by Marlis, to grant the requested type 2 zoning exception to the time period within which a use may be resumed. That time period, the board has determined will grant an exception through 1 year from the board's date of decision, approximately April of 27, still subject to conditions 1 and 2. Is that clear enough for the record, Gary?
I would just add on the time limitation, and obviously we'll work on this when we draft the decision in order.
Certainly.
That the limitation for 1 year from today is to recommence the prior use.
Which, from the city's perspective, would mean we have a mobile home or something acceptable in place on the lot.
I think that's
Generally
right.
be correct. So if you can write that up language-wise, I think that is the intent of the board, especially through the motion in the second.
Right.
Okay, all right. Okay, so then we got a motion by Dave, second by Marlis. As I had summarized, all those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, all right. So say, thank you, Julian. All right, so that motion carries 6-0 yay and 1 abstention. Okay, all right, so guys, give us about a week and we'll get you the documentation back. If you're sticking around in town, though, go to the Drake Relays. It's a great thing to see. We got super weather here this week, except a little rain tomorrow night. I'm going to have to ask you, I can't have folks speak from the audience. If you've got some questions, staff will be happy to help you. Yeah, they'll get you his contact info or vice versa here. You bet. Okay. All right. So appreciate everybody's attention and good work on that one. That'll move us on to our next agenda item, which I believe is agenda item 5, a zoning exception request at 4205 Merle Hay Road related to monument signage.
Chair, members of the board, Bert Dross, planning staff for the city of Des Moines. Item number 5 is a request for 2 appeals that would allow installation of an 18-foot tall monument sign with a 2-foot tall base. The sign would have approximately 112 square feet of signage area, which the signage area falls in line with what's allowed. So the appeals they need are with regards to the height and to the base requirement. This map here shows the subject property located at the northeast corner of Merle Hay Road and Aurora Avenue. Since this aerial photograph was taken, the Green State Credit Union has been built on the property. However, the sign that would be put up would actually advertise for many of the tenants that are within the greater shopping center along the east side of Merle Hay Road to the north of Aurora. Kind of like the Haymarket shopping area. This photo shows the corner of that intersection. You can see the new Green State Credit Union Bank. The proposed sign would be within the grassy area at the corner of the building. This next photo is taken from Merle Hay Road looking east. Again, the sign would be within the grassy area at the far right side of the photo. This next photo is taken from Aurora Avenue looking north. Again, the sign would be in that grassy area here between the landscaping bed and the drive aisle, so close to the fire hydrant. And then here's one more photo taken from the east side of the site, just looking towards the intersection of Merle Hay Road and Aurora Avenue. This drawing is a site sketch that shows where the sign would be placed on the site. The sign is this black box here. This sketch shows that the sign would be located outside of any vision clearance triangles that are required at the intersection. The next drawing shows what the sign would look like. Again, it would be 18 feet tall. They're allowed to have 8 feet of height, so this is 10 feet taller than what's otherwise allowed. It would identify multiple tenants within the Haymarket Square Shopping Center. And then it would only have a 2-foot tall masonry base. The sign is required to have a masonry base that is at least 25% of the sign height. So with an 18-foot tall sign, you're looking at 4.5 feet, and they're wanting only 2 feet. All right, the staff report, we're generally in support of it. However, we believe that they should limit the sign to 12 feet in height. So that would require them to drop it by 6 feet. If you've been doing this long enough to know, we typically recommend 50% over the allowed height. So in this case, they're allowed to have 8 feet of height. So we're recommending the sign be limited to 12 feet, which is 50% over what's otherwise allowed. And then as far as the monument base goes, if it were limited to 12 feet of height, they would be required to have a 3-foot masonry base, which is 25% of that height. However, dropping that from 3 feet to 2 feet is less than 50%. So we were okay with them still providing a 2-foot tall base instead of the otherwise required base. So we have recommended approval, just subject to 4 conditions. 1, the sign shall have a maximum height of 12 feet. 2, the base shall be at least 2 feet tall. 3, the sign can't be within any vision clearance triangle. And 4, they need to get the necessary permits. So we did not receive any comment cards back. This map shows the notification area. And then there's the closing slide. So do you have any questions for me?
Questions for Bert? Bert, just a couple clarification ones here. So, while the applicant hasn't spoke yet, you kind of alluded to the fact, well, yeah, they're having new construction, the sign would be for them, but it's also going to be for Haymarket Square, which is a shopping center, shopping district, whatever, strip mall. What other group signage things do we already have for Haymarket Square on that corridor already?
So they do have another sign, which actually I think it was item 1 or 2 on the same agenda. There's an existing sign that's similar to what you're looking at here. It's existing, and so they're just modifying it. So staff was in support of that since it was really modifications to that. But they do have one other sign.
I'm assuming that's north further by where
closer to Buffalo
Famous
Wild
Dave's,
Wings.
Buffalo Wild Wings. Okay, all right. If this was approved and with the other one that we had on consent, then what, Haymarket Square would have like 2 group signs per se?
Right.
And I don't say this with any malice here, but this is good, brand new construction on a major street corner. Nobody should have a problem seeing where this bank or credit union is. So normally they'd be allowed, what, an 8-foot high sign with a 2-foot base?
Correct.
And I would say that's normally fine, that's good enough. But it sounds like, well, we want a taller sign so we can put tenant information on it for the entire place. So why do we not have a condition in here, unless you can't, that states that X% of the sign shall be reserved for tenants? Otherwise, couldn't Green State just go, forget that, we're just going to do Green State?
Yeah. Well, we can't regulate content.
Okay, all right. I was guessing that.
Right. So, and so that's really why they're allowed to, I mean, years ago we would call this off-premise signage because they'd be, but since that Gilbert Supreme Court case, we're no longer allowed to regulate content of signs.
Okay. Because I know we had some cases in the past where, all right, yeah, the primary tenant has a certain percent and you reserve this much, you can change them in and out. But the idea for a larger sign usually was to give consideration of other tenant signage so we didn't have separate signs everywhere.
Correct.
Okay. But within reason, well, we can regulate size and height, but not the content.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
And you are pointing out that this is on the Green State Credit Union property, which that property earns the one freestanding sign, and this is how they're choosing to utilize their earnings.
This is their own property. It's not owned by the Haymarket Square owners or the other commercial owners. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Okay, thanks for a good lead in, Bert. Okay, applicant or representative of the applicant. Is the applicant here today? Yeah, come on down. President, chief, everything, huh? I just need you to lead off with your name and address as appropriate, and you've got up to 10 minutes to tell us about your project.
All righty. John McCall, Laser Graphics and Signs, 1601 Southeast Gateway Drive in Grimes, Iowa.
Okay.
Here representing the client themselves at the Haymarket Mall. Also, based on the 18-foot overall height is what we're kind of proposing to do. The property is upgraded by its looks, and the property has definitely invested some money to reface it. We kind of kindle the property to bring it back to life. It's a prime property. It's got some good carriers of tenants on it. At this time, we're just looking to bring in, because of the setback of the property itself, as seen from Merle Hay, there's quite a bit of distance. So with this said, the signs that we're asking for to be granted for identification at a prime cross street of Aurora and Merle Hay. Without that said, that's what we're asking for of this 18-foot overall height. Based on a compromise, we would be willing to compromise.
And you've seen what staff recommendations are, and usually with compromise, yeah, it may not be what I want, but it's what I could accept.
Sure.
So you've seen what staff has offered there. Okay?
We'll take what you, we just want to help the property out and
I
bring
get it.
this back to life again.
Yep.
And rekindle what can be redone. It's an older property.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen them come, we've seen them go. We want it to stay.
Okay. Any questions?
You had mentioned that, it's Chairman, sorry. You had mentioned that you're with the Haymarket, you're with Haymarket Squares, our investors, and you're representing Green State, just to clarify?
I'm representing the property owner and the marketing company for that property. I was hoping they would be here today. That was my backup. So
And without oversimplifying, are you in essence the sign contractor?
I'm a sign contractor.
Okay.
Got it,
Yeah, I'm
understood.
the Laser Graphics and Signs, and we're the ones that would be manufactured and installed.
As in the famous
Got it.
Jack?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Mr. Iowa, okay. Other questions? Okay, all right. Well, thanks for a good lead-in. Appreciate that, John. So we'll see if there's anybody else in the audience that has thoughts on this. Anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in support of the applicant? Anybody that wishes to speak in opposition or even in neutrality? Seeing none. Any further comments by staff or any questions we have for staff? Don't see any. All right, we'll close the public portion, go to board deliberation. Again, this is another one. Bert made a comment about, signs, and, staff usually doesn't like to give up much on this, but I kind of want to remind everybody that there's a reason we went to monument signs here a number of years ago. We had 20, 30-foot tall pole signs around the city. Citizens, particularly in the Merle Hay neighborhood, former neighborhood president Jason Pulliam, esteemed Esquire, a lot of those folks started saying 15 plus years ago, we have too much sign clutter in Des Moines in our commercial corridors, especially on the Merle Hay corridor. So part of, even before the city redid the complete zoning ordinance, we went to monument signs. And there's a limitation on height. There's still a limitation on height for monument signs for a reason. We don't want big, tall, huge pillars from the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. I understand they were proposing an 18-foot tall monument sign. To me, that's a little out of kilter for proportion, but they'd be willing to go 12. But with the premise here that, but we'll share the sign with other tenants in Haymarket Square, well, this is not Haymarket Square's property. We cannot regulate content of the sign. The building's there, it's on a corner, it's brand new, there's no obstructions. I don't see why we would need to grant any exceptions here. Put your 8-foot sign on your 2-foot monument for Green State, and we're done. That would just be my thoughts, but I'm not going to make a motion on that, but just to get the thought started here. I'm always about scope and scale and trying to go to the intent of the ordinance. And with signage, we've been trying to reduce signs, not make them bigger. So any other thoughts?
I agree with you. This feels more like a billboard than a sign, and it feels superfluous, right? I mean, we have eyes. We realize that it's the street of strip malls. We have wayfinding applications now. I don't know. I just feel like it's a little redundant to have two giant tenant signs on the same strip, but that's me.
And I guess we just approved that on the strip. And I know that I read it and it was on consent, but we didn't focus on it because it was existing and fairly innocuous. And it's okay to let people know you have multiple tenants with your sign, which we did. Other thoughts?
I agree with both of you. I thought even the 12-foot was overly generous. So I think the 8-foot is reasonable.
I guess I'm indifferent. I think 12 is fine, meeting the variance by the recommendation from the staff. I live in the Merle Hay neighborhood. And I drive by that on Merle Hay Road by this often. I'm actually really excited about the new revitalization that is happening to that structure. And I wanted to ask the question around like what is happening to the old Dolls or Price Chopper building too, because like honestly, the folks that are involved in this project of reestablishing the Haymarket area, and I grew up, I had my childhood home was actually also in that area. And so like to see that there's investments being poured into it to be able to revive it, I actually enjoy. And I think it could support other avenues that the Merle Hay area is trying to do to revive that entire corridor. And so I would support this 12-foot sign.
Julie and I kind of agree with you because over in that they do set back so much further too. So have it from one side to another side with it all being new development coming in. I like the idea of having a sign right there that's even if it was a 12.
And it helps with all the other vendors that are there or businesses. You have some small businesses that are residing there. There's a restaurant, whatever, supporting it. One thing I don't know if we could ask, but it was like, is there an agreement with Green State and Haymarket in regards to that mock-up that we saw? Because I think that would provide more reassurance that they are actually going to deliver on this tenant type sign and not replace it with a Green State sign.
Yeah. Gary, do you want to help us?
My understanding is that Green State is the applicant here. And so Green State, as the property owner, would have to have some sort of agreement with whoever wants to put anything out here. So to that extent, I don't know for sure what the content, if any, of any agreement between Green State and Haymarket might be, but Green State has to consent to this as the property owner. And again, we want to stay away from regulating content in any way.
And they submitted this mock-up with their application, correct? Green State did, the applicant?
Yes.
Yeah, but the catch-22 here is, and I'm implying, Gary, that you're saying, well, they'd have to have an agreement. Not that the city requires the agreement, but yeah, no one has a right to come up and slap a sign on someone's sign that doesn't own it.
Right. That's essentially what I was like. I can't apply for a sign permit on Mel's property for what I want to put out with, Mel would have to.
Right. But the flip side is we can't really ask to see that or know what the agreement is because we aren't allowed to address what the content will be and make our decision based on what the content will or won't be. Is that correct?
Right, because and just to kind of clarify that, I mean, if the determination that you were going to make was like, well, we would okay it if it was just a big old Green State sign, but we won't okay it if it's the tenant listings, then that's content based,
or vice versa,
and we can't do that.
Right. Yeah, these are tough decisions. Yeah.
Hey, I've got a question for
David,
for staff. How does this affect each one of these businesses with the sign that they're permitted to have on the building where they
Each
exist?
tenant is allowed their own wall-mounted signage that's based on how much building occupant frontage they have.
Right.
So the wall-mounted signage is based on tenants, but then each property is allowed its own freestanding sign.
Okay.
So it's not like every tenant in that strip mall could have their own freestanding monument sign. It would be
Right.
one sign for the property per frontage.
And then they could have a sign on the building where
Yeah,
their
each tenant has their own signage.
space is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's dictated by the size of their
How
space.
much frontage
Yeah.
each tenant bay has, correct?
Okay. So Mel, what you mentioned,
Yeah.
what would you propose the size of the sign be then?
Well, I'm not necessarily, kind of by default, if we went with, well, hey, you got a brand new building there, you're on a highly visible corner, yep, you're allowed to have an 8-foot tall sign on a 2-foot base, you put whatever you want on it. That's what's allowed. What they've requested is one that would be 2.25 times taller at 18 foot than allowed, with the notion that, well, we'll have other tenant stuff on it, which we cannot make a decision just based on that, but staff is recommending 12 foot, which would be 50% higher. So all I'm getting at, and Bert, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would defer to Gary, but I think it would be within the board's purview to put a condition that says the sign shall have a design similar to what's shown on this.
Well, I kind of wondered because it's kind of like if you put it out there, but then I have to pretend I never saw it. I don't, yeah, I mean.
So what you're,
well, it doesn't say Green State anywhere. It just says tenant. It doesn't. So they could advertise all the tenants, but they wouldn't be advertising their own place.
so,
Yeah, I would advise staying clear of that. Evaluate it based on the size, because that's really what we're regulating is the location, the size, those content neutral items.
Yep.
so what you've referenced potentially is an 8-foot sign just for the credit union only.
I'm going to be clear here, folks. We need to stay away from what's is going to be on the sign, whose logo, whose name. This is about impact of the sign for its size, height, area. What I'm saying by right, they're on a corner. They have by right an 8-foot tall allowance on what we're calling monument signs. Monument signs, the idea is that they're closer to the ground. So by right, they have 8 foot in height on a 2-foot base. They can put whatever they want on it. I think that's good enough, but that's just me.
I agree with you. I have a follow-up question for you, Bert. Don't leave.
All right.
And I don't know if this is within the scope, but I'm really curious. What happens to the sign if Green State moves or goes out of business?
Well, it goes with the land.
It does. Okay. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you want to move your store there, you could have an 8, 12, or maybe 18-foot tall one. So I'd like to move this along for a decision. It's important for us at board deliberation to get thoughts and reasoning out here before we make decisions. But certainly, to begin with, we have what the applicant has requested in their appeal. Somebody could make a motion to grant the appeal. Somebody could make a motion of staff recommendation, which is less than that. I always say, if somebody wants to put up a flag, to put something out there to grant some kind of exception, they can do that. If the flag, goes up to the top, great. If it doesn't, we'll see what happens. That's what I might suggest, if somebody would have a motion. This is what we get paid the big dollars for.
Well, okay, then let's get the thing started.
Yep.
I'll make a motion for an 8-foot tall sign.
But you don't have to do that, Dave. They have that by right.
Oh, okay, so.
Yeah, but if you want to deny.
So then okay, so we're going to deny this and make it an 8-foot sign.
I would move that we approve the staff recommendation.
I would second that emotion.
Okay, I appreciate where Dave was coming from, and I'm not sure if Dave quite had a motion yet, but I think Julian does. So right? Is that okay, Dave? All right, so Julian's got a motion on the table. to approve staff recommendation of an amended type 2 exception for 4 feet over the maximum allowed 8 feet in height, then subject to the 4 conditions as presented. And that was seconded by Rhonda. If that's clear enough? All right, so we'll go ahead and vote on that. All that would vote in approval of the amended exception for 4 feet over the maximum allowed 8 feet for the sign. Raise your right hand, say aye. That's 1, 2. All right, I see 2. All right, so motion fails. It always takes 4 to pass. Since that motion failed, can other motions be on the table, or if there are no motions, is it considered a denial? I'm making Gary think.
I think if there's no other motions, then it fails. I mean, if somebody else has another motion, I think they can make it.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to deny staff and make it for an 8-foot sign.
Kind of by default, that's what happens. But Gary?
I guess I would recommend phrasing the motion that you move to deny the appeal.
Okay. Okay, I'll let you work on the language. That's what we're paying you big bucks.
That's it. Yeah, right. All right, so Dave, would you have a motion to deny the appeal?
Correct.
All right, I'm going to second that, and with a strong second that considering the character of the neighborhood, other allowable signage in the area, and the site and setting of the property, the zoning ordinance provides sufficient sign height. So I'm going to second the denial of the appeal. So all those in favor of the denial of the requested appeals, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Michelle, you got that? Okay, those opposed to that? 1, 2. Okay, so that motion carries. All right. All right, so John, no discredit to you, and you're fine firm on that. Just the thinking that we have to do here, but we certainly have a sign ordinance, and you can construct a sign with a permit and continue your great work that you guys do at your company. Thank you for coming in today. All right, so that will bring us to, I believe, our last item on the agenda today. Item 6 is a variance and conditional use request at 1413 6th Avenue. And Frank is going to give us the background on this one.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board, Frank Dunn, planning staff. Item 6 is located at 1413 6th Avenue. The applicant is proposing sale of wine, beer by a limited retail sales business within an existing 4,171 square foot building. As a limited retail sales use, no more than 40% of the gross receipts from the premises may be derived from the sale of wine and beer. The existing building is within 150 feet of a property that contains a licensed childcare facility. And so the appeal in front of us today are variants of the provision that requires any limited retail sales business within an RX1 district selling beer and wine to provide at least 150 foot of separation distance from the property line where any church, place of worship, school, public park, or licensed childcare facility are located. Additionally, the second appeal would then be conditional use for a limited retail sales use selling wine or beer for off-premises consumption in an RX1 district. So I will go to my first slide. As you can see in the map, the property is located there in the yellow. This property is approximately 7,345 square feet in area. It is situated on the east side of 6th Avenue between Forest Avenue and Clark Street. And so the property with it being RX1 district, this is an area that is very much transitional, has the setting includes a mix of MX and N district uses, so mixed use and neighborhood uses consisting of residential, office buildings. And these are generally at a scale that's typical for for low-scale neighborhoods. And so for any limited retail sales use, there is the provision that allows them to be in the RX1 district, but they would have to have that separation. And I'm going to pull up some images here. This first image is kind of the front of the building facing across 6th Avenue. It would be facing what would be southeast. This next one, it would be facing directly east. This one here would be facing north across the front of the property. This would be more along the side. As you can see there, the broken up pavement is the approximate location of their property line, then the building. In the back here is just the back side of the building. And further north in the image, you can see a privacy fence. And that privacy fence is the premises for which a licensed childcare facility is located. And so here is an image that is provided by the appellant. Once again, aerial view building is right in this location. And here are some details that the applicant had provided, noting distances, for instance, as 260 feet as the crow flies from door to door from the premises to the licensed facility. And this here is showing the layout plan of the premises. They are proposing to use approximately 2,500 square feet of the premises for their retail component. The remainder of the business would be used for storage, utilities, operational support. They have indicated that approximately 6% of the retail area, or 150 square feet, would be utilized for the beer and wine retail areas. And so the operation hours for this premises are proposed to be 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. The application states that the hours are designated to meet community needs while remaining compatible with the residential uses. The applicant has indicated that only minor improvements are proposed to prepare for the space for the retail use. Those include shelving, refrigeration units, general layout adjustments, but no significant structural changes to the building. The exterior of the premises would remain largely unchanged, and there would be some maintenance. The applicant could speak more to that when they're called up. And so as part of their argument, the applicant has stated a few things indicating that the plight of the owner was not of their own making. As part of any variance, you must establish an unnecessary hardship and that the land in question cannot yield a reasonable return from any uses permitted on the property, and that the authorized use by the requested zoning variance would not alter the essential character of the area in which it is located. Staff does not believe that it's satisfied this criteria, as it isn't able to meet the 150-foot separation distance, which is really there to protect the general health, safety, public welfare of the community. And so as part of that, in not satisfying that, staff does not support granting a variance and therefore wouldn't be able to support the conditional use as well. Now, as part of every variance that is presented that is granted by the board, it is sent to council for a review. And the council, they have 3 decisions to make. They can they can remand it back to the Board of Adjustment within 30 days for further study and decision, at which time the board's decision becomes final. Or they could receive the decision in order in which at such time they could choose to take no action, which after 31 days it becomes approved, or they could take a decision to support the decision made by board, at which time it would become final with no further action. And so those are some of the things that could take place. So I'm going to scroll down. As part of every conditional use, we do send out notification to the neighborhood association and property owners within 250 feet. And so the notices to neighborhood association went out on April 3rd, and to the surrounding property, those notices went out on April 7th. And we did receive some, what is up on the screen is a letter from the Riverbend Neighborhood Association. And generally, they are supportive of what is proposed. They do exhibit or recommend caution with certain elements as part of this consideration. They are concerned with the potential for loitering or other issues. They are also concerned about maintaining good neighborhood relationships with the business in the area. They believe that the Riverbend market, it would be a good thing for the neighborhood, but it would be good to give them an opportunity to operate, to understand the impacts that they might have. And so they have indicated here a list of ways for 6th Avenue neighborhood. They've listed a series of conditions here that pertain to store hours, timing of beer and wine sales, conditions that would, I guess, put off loitering or affect the potential for loitering. And then they're concerned about protecting from noise, and then restricting activities on the premises such as no fishing fishing games or gambling type games on the premises. And so they would not be generally supportive if the property were owned by someone outside of the community. So I believe that is one of the supporting factors for them. And I'll leave the remainder up there for you to skim through. And so we did send out those letters to 250 feet. What you can see here is a consent map. We did receive a comment card back from the neighbor across the street. They are supportive. And then here's a comment card from the Riverbend Neighborhood Association, Kathy Helfstern, who wrote the attached letter that we looked at before. And as part of every conditional use request, the applicant is required to hold a neighborhood meeting and provide us with a summary of what took place. This is a sign-in sheet. So it looks like there were several folks in attendance. $12 or $13 maybe. And they, at the time of their presentation, they did pass out these informational forms pertaining to the purpose of what they're proposing to do. This indicates their purpose as requesting community support for a local convenience store that would provide fresh fruit, vegetables, dairy, meat and frozen items, household essentials, and then limited wine and beer sales not to exceed 40% of the total sales. And then it asks for the applicant's name, information, and then whether or not they support. This one here looks like it indicates I am aware of the proposed store. I support it, and I acknowledge that the business would operate with no negative impact on the daycare. And their notes are, it's close, I can walk to it for odds and ends. And here is another one, once again from the Neighborhood Association. And here is another, also in support. They've indicated this will be a positive addition to our neighborhood. And here's another in support. And it says native store. Here's an additional in support. They like the store. And another, they're in support, no comment. Here's one more, support. The neighborhood needs more brick and mortar stores. Another in support. Nice.
Frank, I'm just curious as you're going through this, and I might have missed this form and format here. Is this the city's form, or is this something that the applicant came up with?
This would be the applicant's form.
Okay. Well, it's very thorough. I'm impressed.
Yeah, and so I'm reading through these so it could be heard on the video. This one, I'm not sure I'm stated, but this one says, nice to have another store in the neighborhood. Also in support. There's another in support, no comment. Another in support, quick groceries in walking distance would be nice. Another in support, no comment. Another in support, close, easy access. Another here, support. Be nice to have a neighborhood store. And this one's in support, no comment. And that is, concludes the presentation. What questions do you have for staff?
Questions for Frank? Marvelous.
Maybe I'm just off line here, but there's not going to be any improvement to the exterior of the building?
It sounds like there will be some maintenance, but I would ask the applicant to expand upon what, if any, changes would be made to the exterior. In the application, I did not find that there were any proposed.
To expand on Marlis's question, has there been a lapse in use here that would trigger site plan, and/or I know that the city's changed some of the city ordinance on requirements for site planning, but would they at least have to repair the parking lot, or would they have to do other landscaping to do this?
It is my understanding that and that they would not at this time, based upon the use being similar to the previous use.
Got it.
Okay.
Julian.
Does the 6th Avenue corridor get notified about this? And does it, and related to the criteria around Plan DSM, does the corridor's plans tie into that at all?
I can't speak to the 6th Avenue corridor's plans. Notification is made to all property owners within 250 feet and to the neighborhood association, as well as it goes out in a mailing to a subscription mailing list. It would be my assumption that they would receive it and that they would be part of the neighborhood association, but I cannot vouch for what they have or have not seen.
Is Riverbend a DSM neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Frank, a few things here that are related to some of, we just had the thing about, there's existing retail like a carpet store, home improvement or something. Do you generally know over, let's say, the last few years or even decades, what was in here? Was there any kind of grocery store, convenience store, Dollar General? Would there have been anybody else that was selling beverages or even alcoholic beverages in any recent, the last 10, 15 years? Does anybody know the history of this building? Well, yeah, we may have the applicant give us a little, appreciate that little echo I heard, but Frank, to the best of your knowledge, are you aware of any?
No, as part of my investigating the property, I looked to see if there were any other conditional uses for the premises, and I was not able to find any.
Didn't find any.
So that
Okay.
would take us back to at least the early 2000s.
Okay. Is that, okay. Chris just wants to stretch his legs. Chris, anything else?
That's accurate. From what we could determine, it was a discount, kind of a general store.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I think someone mentioned a carpet store there, some flooring at one point in time.
Okay.
Generally kind of a retail.
Okay. And I do kind of remember, was there a Dollar General or? That's further up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that might have been a little further up.
Yep, I got you.
I can't confirm your question on alcohol sales there. I don't know.
Right, that's okay. All right, thanks. Okay, well, anything else for Frank for the moment? We may have some more questions later as staff, but I think it'd be good for us to hear from the applicant. So he's got some good information, I think. All right. We'll have Frank get us queued up here. All right, applicant or the representative of the applicant, you've got up to 10 minutes. You've seen how this works. Just come on up, give us your name, address, and when you're through with your comments, you can just sign the log sheet. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Board of Adjustment. My name is Locus. I currently live on 27 Euclid, but I recently bought the property on which there is the building that we're talking about right now, and also the two property next to it also.
Okay.
As a whole package deal because the previous owner they want to sell the whole thing at once. So two house and then the building next to each other. So I've been put a lot of investment into right property, and hopefully that's to request a variance to run this store responsibly and focus on the community needs and focus on a convenience store. And I know there's a lot of concerning, some, like city might concerning regarding if there is any issue as far as like the separation, the distance between the daycare and the building. So initially, before I bought the building, I contacted the city and the zoning to ask them regarding if I'm okay to open up a convenience store with the sale of beer. And they said, yes, with the condition that they ignore the care within the certain period, distance. And so I did my due diligence. I did do a quick search. I look on Google, anything near me, you don't really see it, anything nearby. And then I asked the previous owner and the neighbor, they don't know it even exists. And I did walk around the neighbor, I look everywhere, there's no sign of anything. So I assuming that's good to go. So then I purchased the property. And then later when I applied for the beer and wine lessons, and they said, oh, there is this one within 150 feet. So that's why I'm stuck with the building and all this. The reason why the beer is important as a part of my convenience store is, although we only thinking it might potentially make about 10% of sales, but the overall revenue that it will generate, like when people come buy beer, they might buy something else. Or versus, when they come to the store, they want to buy something and they might buy a beer, Without a beer there, they might not even show up at all. Just as if you do a party or some kind of small event, you just want to, one-stop shop all, right? You don't want to go to different place. So that's why I think it is important for our convenience to sustain and to be successful. We should have a little bit of alcohol in there, as most of the convenience store would have. And I know that the city brought up some attention, maybe noise, but I don't think there's much noise going on because the building is right there. And then I bought my property next door to it. If anyone have disturbance, it would be me, And we close at 10. And it's indoor, everything happened indoor, so there's no noise, no music, no nothing like that. And we do have a policy of, no loitering. So that should not be a concern. And as far as traffic congestion, I know that the city mentioned a little bit about it. Because the alley, the main street on 6, and then you turn on to the little alley and then go into the parking. So there is not really cause like congestion to the traffic. So that's not even considered much of a problem. And as the neighborhood association, they don't have any opposing to it. And I talked to all the neighbors around it. They're all in support of a convenience store. And as far as nuisance, they're concerned maybe litterings. Well, my name, like I've been in the community. I have a nonprofit organization I've been running for like 8 years. I don't know if you heard of me, but the Watchman nonprofit organization. We do a lot of volunteer to our communities, clean up the neighbors and all of that for the last 7-8 years. And we did receiving 3 volunteer award of the year from the city based on our volunteering on the community. So So leadering and community support, that is what I've been doing for the last 8 years. So that is not something to be concerning about. And I also running a youth development program too. So I do understand that there is a daycare nearby. But I have a lot of youth development. So of course that would be one of my concern too. And as far as the distance, I know that it's 150 feet distance from the store. That's the limit. But if you're really looking at the property on how they, I don't know, I can see on here somewhere. But it's really well, I don't think I find it. But the daycare is on 5th Avenue and we're on 6th, so it's two opposite door. So it's not really in direct contact, so it doesn't have effect anyway. And we are from the parking, look over here, that you don't really see the daycare or they can see the store, so it's not really anything. I'm not sure if there's any other questions, concerns you guys want to ask.
Do you have questions for Locus?
Yeah, my concerns align with number one in regards to the considerations that have to be evaluated regarding like health, safety, and general welfare of persons, because of the one, not to in the neighborhood or near the neighborhood, you also have sobering centers. And so a sobering or a substance prevention centers. And so I just feel like it will be against where the neighborhood is trying to go, especially when it comes to the corridor. And so my concerns are related to that. And then also understanding like Quick Trip is not too far from your market. And so I don't think liquor, selling like wine and beer is necessary. I do recognize that the community is desiring a market or a convenience store that has like, and all the things that it seems like they mentioned is like the household items, having food and things like that nearby. Is beer and wine necessary to be able to achieve having those household items that you had mentioned?
For us, we believe it is necessary. We and the gas station are different. We provide general necessary needs. And if we don't provide those alcohol, it's end of the trip, for people, hey, where should I go to Walmart? Or could I go to Walgreens? Or should I go to this place? If we provide inconvenience for them, then they might not show up at all. Why do they need to stop by gas station and then go to our place? It's just like multiple trips. It's creating inconvenience. And therefore, we might lose a customer.
So you're saying that you couldn't operate a market that had no alcohol?
We believe that it is harder for our business to sustain. Not that it's impossible, but it be somewhat it can be struggle. Because the alcohol is a contribution to bring more traffic to the store. And without that, we could potentially lose up to 30% of sales.
Would you still operate the market as a non-alcoholic convenience center?
If I would know the daycare was there in the first place, I would never purchase a property. Because it put a, handicap on my property. It really reduced the potential that it can possibly make an income or potentially even have a loss. It could be lead to a struggle. So for business decision-wise, I would have not bought the property if I know it was there.
Locus, I give you a ton of credit as a prepared applicant. I like your map, and gosh, I've never seen a community meeting support notes as clear as what you provided, so I thank you for that. One of the challenges we have as a board is, well, it's kind of twofold here. If this daycare wasn't, within that distance, even if we can't see it, even if it's behind you, within that distance, that's kind of the controlling factor we have to look at, is that variance test. If the daycare wasn't there, then we would look at your operations themselves. And, how long are you going to plan to be open, how much area you're going to use, all of that stuff. But I think as a matter of fact, as a matter of like order of operation here, we have to look at the variance part first. Because if we can't grant the variance, I can't even evaluate your conditional use. That's kind of how I'm reading this here. That's a tough one for me. But even if because the variance test says this building can't be used for anything else, it can't gain any income. It's not laid out to do anything else except for this use that you're proposing that requires a conditional use to begin with. So to grant the variance, we have to show there's some unique circumstance here that we need to give you credit because, yeah, you can't use the building for anything else. I don't know that I can do that in good faith, but even if I looked at what you propose, if there's no daycare around, with the map you've provided, in general, yes, you're showing, a limited amount of square area and this and that, but the area you show for the alcohol sales shows 96 square feet with a door. Is that a walk-in cooler?
It's a beverage, where you have beverage, drink, different kind of drink, and a little section of alcohol. Basically, it's a reaching cooler.
Right. So it'd be like at a typical convenience store, I open like a clear glass door and you have shelving.
Yeah.
But a person as a customer can't enter. It's not like a 96 square foot beer cooler.
They don't go back high.
It's only for staff.
Yeah,
Okay.
for staff.
So the idea is if I walked into your business, I would see about 12 square feet, which would be 3 to 4 doors.
Yeah.
You've got beer bottles or you've got
A few doors,
chilled
yes, a few
wine.
doors.
Okay, or wine coolers, if they still sell those. Yeah, okay. And then your soda pop is the same way. You've got.
Yeah, same line with the beer, they get
You
like
open the
the whole
doors.
length.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's no walk-in beer cooler here.
No walk-in.
Okay, all right. Okay, but yeah, and this is something the board may have to deliberate this from a legal perspective, but that variance test is a tough one to get over. But I do appreciate all of your background and information on what you want to do. Have you operated anything like what you'd like to do here in the Des Moines area in the past?
Not with a convenience store. This is something completely new.
Okay.
I do other things, but not.
Sure. I got you. Okay. Any other questions for Locus? Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Okay. Well, we've got a big audience here, so we'll see. Is there anybody in support of the applicant's request? Seeing no hands. Anybody in opposition or neutrality? Do we have any further questions for staff, or does staff want to add anything for clarification? Okay, if these guys are good down there at the side table, then we'll close the public portion and go to board deliberation. Gary, I would like to ask you here in board discussion, I kind of made my layperson version of this, but order of operation, variance test can, because we really have two things to decide, but if we can't decide on one, we really can't do the other. Can you kind of help me clarify that?
Yeah, I think putting it in terms of order of operations is the most helpful way of thinking about it, because as you've said, Chair, there are two appeals here. One is a variance for the separation distance requirement between the limited retail alcohol sales and the daycare use. And then the other appeal is the conditional use, which, as you pointed out, the conditional use would be required even in the absence of the daycare or any other limiting factor. So I'm happy to talk about the variance test. Before I get to that, I want to address this question, which is even if you were to if you were to deny the variance, if you then went on to look at the conditional use, like, you wouldn't get past number 1 of the conditional use test, which is that the business conforms with the conditions identified in table 3.9-1. That's gonna be a no. Then you might get into the other issues, but so essentially, if the decision on the variance is essentially outcome determinative. If you deny the variance, it's gonna be outcome determinative for the conditional use. And the reason that I mentioned the variance first is because, as we've discussed before, and happy to remind again, the variance test is a very high bar. The Supreme Court, within the last 5 years, even has said that that the applicant bears the burden of proof to show that there is no reasonable return for any permitted use of this property. And the Supreme Court has called that a significant burden. The burden of proof there is a significant burden. So this is a very high bar that the applicant has to clear. And again, it is the applicant's burden to put evidence in front of you that the property cannot yield a reasonable return from any permitted use. And I'm reading from a case from 1984. Lack of a reasonable return may be shown by proof that the owner has been deprived of all beneficial use of his land. All beneficial use is said to have been lost where the land is not suitable for any use permitted by the zoning ordinance. So I'm happy to answer any other questions about the variance test or the conditional use consideration, but I always want to remind the board of that bar.
Gary, I thank you for that. Again, as board members, when we serve here, it's a privilege. It's also a challenge for us because there's a lot we have to think about, and it's not just if we like it or we don't. I like the guy. I might like what he wants to do, but we have a zoning ordinance, and then there's some how we carry out that ordinance has to be within the confines of the law and any interpretation of the law where courts have played a role. This is not the first time we have run into this. This could be a coffee shop. This could be a ZZZ2 used record store. There's a lot of things that could go in here. Could this be something that is likable and valuable? Yeah, but it could be within many of the uses already allowed. I know that anytime somebody can sell some alcohol, that helps. But somebody could have an organic convenience store with fresh vegetables and a meat counter with fresh Iowa pork and beef, Graziano's, I don't know, and people would show up. I understand what he wants to do. I understand that this would help his model. I'd love to look at it just as the conditional use part, but to me, the variance part, it comes first. The council adopted this ordinance. They adopted this distance. This has been even through when we went through our plan DSM. I think this carried through that and remained as part of it. There may be some things I do or don't like about that, but the way the ordinance stands, it's within the radius. And so it's difficult for me to look past that, to be able to grant the variance. But that's just to kick off the conversation. So with the background Gary gave us, do other folks have thoughts here? It's old-timey siren. Anyone? Tom, what are you doing down there? Do you have any thoughts?
The only thing,
Julian.
yeah, I hear where you're coming from, Chair, in regards to the variance. Taking into context of the daycare owner, I assume that was supporting this. Like I said, most of the positive feedback and support related to the convenience store, generally speaking, and the items, the non-alcoholic items that would be accessible. And so, and being from Des Moines and also being an adult in this community, I'm very familiar with the 6th Avenue area, the corridor, and Riverbend. I think a market would be great, but I don't think alcohol is necessary to be successful. If the variance piece wasn't a concern of the board, I would offer a condition of like 20%, up to 20%, not exceeding 20% in regards to sales of beer and wine. But that as a way to still deliver the essential items of the market that the community is desiring and would love direct access to.
Yep, those are great comments. Marlis?
I'd like to make a motion.
Sure.
I move that we deny the requested variance based on it just doesn't pass the test.
Yep. Okay, so we've got no, I'm sorry, sir. We've closed we've closed public comment. We're at board deliberation here. So we've got a motion to deny the requested variance to the separation distance requirement. So would there be a second to that motion? Second by anyone?
I have a comment, which is, it's an unfortunate situation, you know, that you bought the building and thought you did your due diligence, and I think that that is terrible. And I guess, like, for people who are trying to figure out if they're within distance, they contact the city, right? It's not just like a Google thing, because there are in-home daycares that I think might not be listed online publicly, and I think that that's just an unfortunate set of circumstances, right? I think it feels like in your neighborhood, people really want to support local, and that they do agree it's a food desert, and they'd probably really want to patronize your shop over Quick Trip. And any kind of angle you could look at in order to supplement that versus going to the default of beer and wine could be really helpful, because a variance is super hard to give people in terms of we're not the end-all decision. It has to go to city council, and then they would have a discussion and they could send it back to us, and then we'd still have to have another discussion if they decided to do that. That's my comment.
It's a good comment as well. Tom?
As a practice, when I practice law, I always told people when they bought property to make sure that property they wanted to buy could be used for the intended use. He indicated he spoke to somebody to see whether he could do his business there. You know, that's my point one, is that, you know, he had an opportunity. Whether it was done properly or not on his behalf is one thing. The other thing, the second property is the daycare center. Basically, if we allow them to sell beer there, if we grant the variance, you kind of kill it to be a daycare center if they want to resell their property. So just throwing that out.
Those are some good points as well, Tom. And while we can't be Google information right here or adjudicate everybody's research, you know, if it's a licensed daycare, there's a state database. I would think the city can tie into that database. If somebody says, I want to sell alcohol, I think that, you know, that could be explained. You know, if somebody had something in writing that all of this had been reviewed by the city and then it didn't, it could be different. Gary, something you want to add?
I do want to add just one maybe more formal process that is in place in Chapter 134 that would give folks a determination from the city, is that they can, and anybody can request a zoning determination letter from our zoning enforcement officer, and that's a pretty quick turnaround process. And city staff will investigate that and provide a letter that would give them the assurance or the caution that would warrant. So I would like to remind the public of that.
Yes, and I always say that if people watch or listen to our hearing, that they can learn some things for not just the cases at hand, but yeah, if they're working with the city in the future. I know staff will even have a sit-down kind of meeting with folks and bring all the departments together. And certainly on certain projects, the more complex they are, the more that's a benefit to folks. But we do have a motion on the floor here, denial of the requested variance of the separation distance requirement. So I think I just feel like I'd have to do this procedurally. I'm going to go ahead and second that motion. So we got a motion and a second for denial of the requested variance of the separation distance for the requested conditional use permit. All those in favor to recommend denial, raise your right hand, say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that's 7-0. So Gary, procedurally, since we've denied the variance, then by default, we cannot consider the conditional use, and therefore, do we need to vote on that?
I would recommend, just to have a clean record, that we have a motion and a vote on since there are two appeals.
Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that since we've denied the variation to separation distance, the separation distance refers to certain uses in and about the neighborhood that this could have an impact on. That ties into consideration for conditional uses to be, in essence, commensurate within reason, within conditions of the neighborhood. I do not believe that it would then meet the conditions of the surrounding neighborhood area to blend in with it. So I'm going to recommend denial of the conditional use with a motion for denial. I need a second.
I'll second that.
All right, so I've got a second by Rhonda. All those in favor of denial of the conditional use request, raise your right hand, say aye. Okay, so that motion carries 7-0. I know that's not the outcome you were looking for, Locust, but since you are a property owner, we do have folks at the city, and there are many nonprofits lending, Neighborhood Finance Corporation. There are programs to help owners look at trying to find ways to fix up buildings and do business development. I don't know what they all are, but I think in this brand new City Hall administration building we have, there are some folks who can do that. So I would encourage you to work with our city staff here to see what other resources and referrals they can give you to help you. Because I'd love to see you find a use for this building that is a benefit certainly to you, but also the neighborhood. So do appreciate you coming in today. Thank you. Okay, so I think those are our agenda items. I believe we have a couple business things we have to do today. I'm going to start with the simple one, but which would be minutes from last meeting for those that were in attendance last month. If you've reviewed the minutes, are there any changes? If there are none, would there be a motion to approve the minutes?
I will motion.
Motion by Rhonda,
Second.
second by Julian. All those in favor that were here last month, raise your right hand, say aye. Okay, is that everybody but Dave? Yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, so I think if I remember right, is this officer month?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So for those of you, I think everybody's been on the board at least 1 year now. On an annual basis, we elect a chair and then a vice chair. So the chair is generally going to lead the procedural part of the meeting. If the chair is not present, the vice chair does so. If the vice chair is not there, any other member or senior member is kind of welcome to step up. So what I generally like to do is open the floor for nominations for board chair. I've enjoyed doing this for the last year and maybe one or two before that, but I'm always open if somebody has an interest in doing so or wants to nominate any one of us.
I want to nominate Mel.
Okay, so we have one nomination. Okay, you guys are way ahead of me here. All right, so we got a motion by Rhonda, and we've got a second by Heather. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, is there anybody opposed? If you're opposed, go ahead and put your hand up. Okay, I see none. Okay, fortunately, Gary can't vote, yeah. All right, so that motion carries 6-0 for chair. Now, then we elect a vice chair. And the last year, and I think maybe a year or two before, Dave Guerra has been our vice chair, served on the board for many years. And when I've been absent, which has been rare, Dave's done a great job. So I'm going to start with a motion to nominate Dave Guerra for vice chair.
I will.
I'm going to give it to Tom.
Okay.
Yeah. Just, just for balance on the record. All right, we've got a motion by Mel, and we've got a second by Tom for Dave Guerra for vice chair. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, that motion carries 6-0, abstention from Dave. Okay, I think that concludes officer business. What other business would we have, Frank?
Approval of minutes.
Did that.
Sorry. That's it.
And I might just encourage staff here as you look forward, maybe what's coming up. I know we had talked even before the end of the year about maybe another board training day, maybe some reminders on things. We might want to see an expanded view of Chris Heilsco's neat stuff that a lot of our code enforcement and our neighborhood folks do, all the things they work with. So I might encourage staff if that's something you'd want to do in the next few months. I know I talked with Gary about a few items for agenda. So, but I know there's a lot to be done. There's been a lot of changes here at City Hall. So, okay. All right. Well, seeing no other business, this hearing is adjourned.